quick, watch very closly, and see what you see.
What inspires you? How do you come up with these unbelievable ideas?
I create visual worlds that are so beyond everyone's normal life experiences. And Hollywood is a place that creates a viewer escape. And what I try to do is, as a director, I try to... the type is all off, sorry, but I'll just wing this.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, we'll wing it right now. I try to take people on an emotional ride. And
The Curve? How do you think it's going to impact how viewers experience your movies?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Michael Bay for joining us.
All right, let's thank Michael Bay. Oh my gosh, can you believe that? $1 billion launch? And that's what happened? Oh my gosh. So I don't want you to be the Michael Bay. What I want you to be is the Steve Jobs. Right? I want you to be that presenter, that presentator, that delivers the message, the correct spokesperson. Making sense? So I want you to be so powerful and confident that you have a system to follow. So now, let's begin with number one, which is the introduction. Now, the introduction is the key to your webinars and your presentations. In fact, the sale happens within the first 1 to 3 minutes, 90% of the time. They've already made that first impression. They've already decided they're going to buy or not buy that quick. So real quick, I want to ask a couple of questions. So, who in this room might be speaking on a stage in, let's just say, the next 3 to 6 months? Let me see your hands. Okay, put them nice and nice. How many of you want me to share with you one strategy right now that will guarantee for you to be the best speaker, the best, when I say best speaker, the best converter, and has nothing to do with your product, has nothing to do with how good or talented you are, but one technique. Who would be interested? Anybody? Oh, that's not enough people. Never mind, we'll skip it. We'll go to the next one. All right, you guys want to hear this? So when you're speaking on this circuit, usually they'll have an MC introduce you. Will he do a good job or a bad job most of the time? Bad job, unless they've been trained by me, like Steve has. So now, the better would be to ask the trusted advisor. So let's just take an example of Tony Robbins. So the reason why everybody's at a Tony Robbins seminar is because of who? Tony, right? So when Tony speaks, they listen. So what I'll do is I'll find the main guy, I'll find Tony, I'll come over here. Hey Tony, would you mind introducing me from the stage? It'd mean a lot to me and my family. What do you think they usually say? Because usually what? The speakers are usually talkers. So I want you to watch me very closely and get this. Tony's going to come up here and say, in a moment, introduce Mr. Dave Vanhoose. And Dave is somebody who's trained my son, a lot of the top speakers, and he wants to show you how to become a presenter. Let's give him a warm welcome. Now watch, listen, and feel this. As soon as I come up on stage, as soon as I get the handshake or the hug, then the transition of power becomes me. So now I'm their trusted advisor. So when I speak, they listen. Did you guys get that? Making sense? So I'm going to run through these advanced strategies, but I want to make sure that you get this and that you're following along. So I'll say, are you getting this? Or is this making sense? And just say, yes. So, are you getting this? Yes. Okay. So in the introduction, have the leader introduce you and have them transfer the power. The second thing that you want to do is you want to use an intro video to bring you up on stage. So that way, in the beginning, you're brought up in power. Making sense? Yes. This one strategy, if you use it on stage, will actually double your close and have nothing to do with your product because you're getting the endorsement of their trusted advisor. Making sense? Yes. Are you guys getting this? Yes. Okay. The second thing you want to do is when people get on a webinar on a stage, they want to talk at people. Kind of like a football coach talking to kids. That's a bad strategy. A better strategy is to excite the imagination of the audience, bringing them into your conversation. We're going to learn a couple of NEP techniques by grabbing the subconscious mind, exciting the imagination, and we're going to use a technique called Have You Ever Wondered? So you want to grab that attention. The third thing you want to do is introduce what we call the yes state. All great successful salespeople know that 7 yeses equals a what? Sale. Think of this. The audience can do one of two things. They can agree with you, or they can disagree with you. So you want small commitments throughout your presentation. In fact, the very first sell of a presentation is getting the audience to agree with you. And you want to make sure you have fun to say yes to. Making sense? Yes. So small agreements will equal the big commitment. Did you get that? Yes. Small commitments equals the big commitment. Especially on webinars. So if you're doing webinars, who's going to be doing webinars? Let me see your hands. How many want me to share with you one strategy that will double your close? Anybody interested? Yeah! That's not enough people, never mind. I don't have to teach you so you don't want. Who's interested? Yeah! So when I did a webinar to a big list, I did a big list and I did the webinar. And at the end of the webinar, you can pull up the report of the stats of how many people were on, who dropped off. You can pull up the stats. What's interesting, that when they pull up the stats, they see so much interaction. They see so much engagement on my webinar. It's like, oh my gosh, Dave, how did you do that? And so what I use as a technique is I always say when I do my webinar, this is not a webinar training. This is an interactive web class, interaction training. And I don't start the webinar until I get everybody to comment, chat, or agree with me and get them engaged. Making sense? Did you guys get that? Because if you don't get them engaged and get them into small commitments, when you offer up the offer, the big commitment, they're not going to do it. It's called conditioning. It's like Pavlov's dogs. He rang the bell and got the dogs to do what? Elevate, right? So, the next thing is what we call framing. Now, before I talk about framing, I just want to kind of pull up, the solution is to this. I want to pull up a quick little story. So, back when I was learning this, and you understand, how I learned this is I spoke at lunch and at dinner. I tested what color shirt to wear, what color tie to wear. I tested what side of the stage you put your product on. How do you communicate? Where do the slides go? What order? What color? Every single thing affects the close. It was amazing. I would make one shift. Whoop! Instead of making 10,000, I made 50,000 that talk. And I changed a couple things. And for 50,000, I made 100,000 that talk. Unbelievable, the big magnitude. You have to understand, in this industry, small gates swing big doors. I want you to understand that. Each one of these techniques will add zeros into your business. Making sense? Yes. Are you guys getting this? Yes. Would this work for you? Yes. Could you see yourself doing that? Yes. There's 4 yeses. You're sold. Is it okay if we have some fun? Okay. So, then I want to give you a strategy that is a great strategy for webinars. This is one of the biggest challenges that if you're doing webinars is what? Is when people register for the webinar, they start watching the webinar, what happens to most people before the end of the webinar? They do what? They fall off, right? So if they dropped off, let's say you had 200 people that were on, and by the offer, there's only 100. So you lost out on 100 people that could hear your amazing opportunity, correct? So if I could show you a way how to make sure everybody stayed to the end, instead of talking to 100 people, you talk to 200 people, would that increase and probably double the sales? Oh, yeah. How many of you think that? Do you want to know why I did it? So, it's what's called framing. And I'm not going to go into detail, too much depth about the subconscious mind here, but understand this. There's 2 parts of mind. We've got the conscious and the subconscious. What we want to do is we want to set the frame in the subconscious. Because whatever the mind believes will happen, most likely will happen to it. So the subconscious mind, you want to set what they call the pre-frame. And what you want to do is what a strategy called open loop and future pacing it. So what you want to do is you want to have a slide in your webinar, which is the 4th slide, which is the what you're about to discover slide. And what you're going to do is you're going to pre-frame your talk, and you're going to open loop them. And when you do this correctly, they'll be hanging on to every word. And they'll be finishing your... Making sense? So when you open loop them, then they'll be wanting to stay to the... In fact, I'm going to tell you something really powerful. My friend I talked to, Robert Allen, I'm going to tell you something really, really, really important. But let me get back to open looping and framing. You want to know what he said? Have tons of fun with Dave, right? So we've got to create that curiosity. And that will make sure they stay to the end. In fact, I want to tell you a quick story. I met Robert Allen, who most of you probably know. He's written many books, been in this industry for a long time. And real quick, I'm going to play this little story about how he saw me with this blueprint and what he thinks about this blueprint. So let's take a quick review here.
Hi, my name is Robert Allen. I'm the author of some best-selling books you might have heard of: Nothing Down, Creating Wealth, Multiple Streams of Income, The 1 Minute Millionaire, and a bunch of others that have sold millions of copies and helped thousands of people become financially free. I met a friend who told me about Dave Vanhoose. And I'd never heard of the gentleman before, if I can be totally honest. And what I heard about this friend telling me about him is this is a guy who delivers. Now, if you're a speaker, if you have a message in you that you want to get out to the world, more than likely you've got it on a PowerPoint, you speak in front of stages, and you're probably not closing the way you want to close. This guy is the guy that can take that dream of yours of speaking on stages all around the world and can help you create a PowerPoint, can literally guide you through the process. And why is he so good at this? Because 3,000 presentations he has given, he's got it to the point where he knows if he wears a red tie or a yellow tie, which one closes better. This guy is a scientist when it comes to speaking. And no one in the world, not including myself, can teach you more about how you can be a public speaker than this guy right here. Nobody.
Nobody. That's what Robert G. Allen, who's done $1 billion in the speaking info business. I've read